Welcome back, people of the internet. It's me, Audie, back again with another video. Today I wanted to hop on here and talk about some interesting stuff going on in the console space. Over the past couple of days, we've seen a lot of information going on regarding PlayStation and their stance in the market right now. We've also seen more info on Xbox and what direction they're going in. And of course, we got the Switch 2 news earlier in the month. And to be honest with you, it's looking like the console wars are officially over. Now more than ever, genuinely feels like a great time to have gaming as a hobby. Before I get into it, I would love if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. While making content is fun, it is a lot of work, so any support is always appreciated. Alright, so I really thought about how I wanted to start off this topic because I know a lot of people out there are very passionate about things like this, especially with console pride and brand loyalty and all that stuff. So please do not attack me for any of this. I'm just giving my take on the information given to us. As we all know by now, Xbox had their Direct last week, and to be honest, it was a pretty good show. They showed some games that they have lined up for us in the first half of the year, and even dropped a surprise. You can watch my previous video for my reaction on all of it. The point is, I thought it was great. What interested me the most is that every game they showed looked to be a non-exclusive third-party title, if that's what you want to call it. They're all coming to PC and PlayStation, and I would like to think to Switch too, but that's a whole other story with how I think Nintendo is rolling out game support. Now, I think a lot of people, including myself, first saw this and the leaks of Halo coming to PS5 and Switch as Microsoft waving the flag on the console market. But a recent interview with Phil Spencer absolutely changed my mind on this. I saw most of the information in clips over on Twitter and Blue Sky, but I'll see if I could find a link to the entire interview and add it to the description below. In this video, he obviously talks a lot about Xbox and what their approach to stuff is now. And honestly, this is what got me thinking about all of this. He states that Xbox games will appear on more platforms. They even asked him about games like Starfield, and he said that there was even a possibility of that. He also mentions how he wants hardware to be chosen based on its features, not exclusivity, and how Xbox aims to broaden access without gatekeeping games. Reading back, that does sound a little shady, considering that a lot of people think Sony are gatekeepers when it comes to their exclusives, so I just thought that was a little funny. Now, to be completely real, this doesn't look like Xbox is waving the flag at all. It more so looks to me like they're offering a truce. They know that Sony and Nintendo absolutely dominated this generation in terms of console sales. And if we look at Microsoft since the release of the Series X, it almost feels like Microsoft has been in panic mode about what to do with their gaming department. But in a massive turn of events, that is evidently not the case at all. And honestly, it almost feels like Sony are kind of the ones in that position. You see, gaming has been in a really weird spot over the past couple of years. We had the pandemic hit right when the release of this console generation began, and with that came a lot more people into the gaming hobby, with scalpers buying every PlayStation in sight and Xbox just not delivering a solid presentation to challenge what Sony had. A lot of people asked themselves, what console do I buy? The answer was a PC. This kind of created a whirlwind in the gaming space because after years of consoles being the go-to in the gaming market, we saw a boom in PC building. What didn't and still doesn't help is the power of these PC parts and how they allow gamers to really enhance their gaming experiences, whether it be graphical or performance-based. And all they have to do is just throw a little bit more money at their rig. This kind of exposed the general public to how bad consoles really are. On release, these consoles were already lagging behind current tech. Now, I don't want to get too tech nerdy, so I'll just give one example. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the PS5's GPU is the equivalent to an RTX 2070. At the time, the most accessible card were the 3070s, which is an entire tier above in terms of improvement. 5 years later, we're now at the 5070s. That's 3 tiers above the current generation of console. I think they quickly learned that buzzwords like teraflops were not going to work this time. This obviously forced companies like Sony and Xbox to change their marketing strategies. And to be honest, Nintendo kind of stayed doing whatever they wanted to do. And we really didn't see the effect of this market change until now. I have this analogy where I compare these consoles to the mobile phone market. I like to say that Sony is like Apple, very brand focused, but not consumer friendly at all. Xbox is like Android, a bit more consumer friendly, but not attractive to the eye, and it always feels like they're a step behind. And Nintendo, to be honest, is like Huawei. They're always innovating by throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it lands. A lot of the times, those innovations are left in the dust because of inefficiency, but when something lands, they run with it. Now, when you think about it, Sony is dominating the console sales right now. They even released a super cool new mid-generation upgrade to their top-of-the-line gaming console, kind of like how Apple releases a Pro version to their phone every year. They offer you the best graphical performance for any console out there. The only problem is that it's $700, and it's missing features like the disk drive and the stand. You can equate this to the iPhones coming in with no headphones or a charging bank anymore. Now, Microsoft has stood by the Xbox Series X this whole time. At times, they even make it seem like they were ditching the consoles period and just focusing on Game Pass. Kind of like how Android phones are not really focused on software and kind of the features that come with the phone. They do their best to keep up hardware-wise, and they really drive features like a stylus or gaming mode on their devices. And then just for the sake of adding them, you have Nintendo, making really silly things like the Switch that has detachable controllers, and they're pretty janky. And they also have hardware that's 15 years old at this point, but they have people always coming back and looking at them for brand loyalty and how they treat their IPs and gaming in general. Going back to Xbox using this analogy, instead of releasing a mid-generation console like Sony, they instead went the direction of having all of their games simultaneously release on PC. So graphics were never an issue for them. No need for a hardware update on their device because they know for that price, most are just going to buy a PC anyways. At first, everyone clowned this decision because it felt like they were really shying away from consoles. Kind of waving the L, if you will. But I don't think they could have made a better decision. Instead of throwing money at the production of a mid-gen console, they threw their money at acquisitions instead. We saw Microsoft purchase major companies like Blizzard, Activision, and Bethesda, and we saw Sony be a bit more conservative with the acquisitions, only really buying Bungie, if I could remember off the top of my head. Sony really focused on selling you the console that they made. The only problem is that Sony hasn't really given us much of anything over the past couple of years. The company that really holds up the entire console exclusivity veil has really only given us a handful of exclusives over the past couple of years, and most, if not all, are on PC at this point, minus Astrobot. So you might ask yourself, what has Sony been doing this whole time? I'm sure Sony studios have been working on great games to finally make this console worth the price, but I regret to inform you, this was not the case at all. Within the same time period of Nintendo announcing their new gen console and Xbox giving us an amazing presentation, news breaks that Sony has canceled the production of over 10 live service games, most coming from their major game studios. Now, I won't get into it too much because this is an entire topic in itself, but what the hell was the point of an upgrade console that improves on graphics and performance if we're not getting exclusive PlayStation games to play on it? All these third-party titles that we could play on the PS5 Pro, we could play on the PC. Meanwhile, Xbox doesn't need to focus on live service games because they have frickin' Call of Duty and Overwatch and Halo, but we don't talk about those. Who the hell told Sony that this was a good idea? 12 live service games? Some being God of War themed and Horizon Zero Dawn themed. If I wanted to play God of War, I would just play God of War. And if I wanted more from the God of War world, I would literally just read Norse mythology. This probably means we're not getting games from studios like Bend Studios and Bluepoint and Santa Monica for years. Probably for the rest of this generation, and that's very disappointing to hear. In 2025, we are seeing Xbox clearly making Xbox Studio games, but instead of forcing people to play on their console, they're sharing with the rest of them. All but South of Midnight will be available on PC and PlayStation day one, and probably the Switch 2 as well. South of Midnight will probably have current exclusivity, and after maybe a year, we'll get it on other consoles, if I had to predict. Just this week, we saw Ninja Gaiden 2 release on all consoles, including Game Pass on day one. They even got a physical, though it was only on PlayStation. Now, Xbox doesn't need a physical, considering they have Game Pass on not only their console, but on PC as well, with it potentially coming to handhelds in the future. Remember, anything can be an Xbox at this point, according to them. This is probably the most consumer-aware move I've seen Xbox do since adding the party system and group watching on Netflix back in the 360. At the end of the day, Xbox players do not buy their games, and Sony players do, just not the exclusives that Sony make, which is why we're getting them on PC. Now, I honestly feel like I've been rambling, but it just means that I'm very excited for what's to come. With the addition of the Switch 2, we will finally see a gaming market where everyone can experience any game they want on any platform they want. And no matter how you put it, this is a great time to be a gamer. I'm so excited for what's to come, and so should every gamer out there. That is all I have for today. Please remember to leave a like and a sub if you liked the video. I would also love to hear what you guys think about this in the comments down below. But like I always say, do not be mean. Hope to see you all next video. Goodbye now.